And people think NFT means images. It's not true. NFT just means non-fungible token. It means it's not divisible into decimals, that's all. Just like you can't take a picture and start cutting it up into pieces and selling them. However, when you think about Web3 is the term I would use because Web3 encompasses blockchain and crypto and the ecosystems therein. So Web3 is kind of like associating your transactional data and your identity data together, however, anonymizing it. And so if you imagine a free and decentralized society, the blockchain could bring about that future. Although I am not a religious believer, I would say blockchain and crypto and other such terms are all under the umbrella of things that can help people if we do it right. That's all. And it's not like blockchain is going to be a revolution started by Satoshi Nakamoto, originated by Bitcoin, where the US dollar will... So when I was a kid, I grew up pretty humble, and going to college at UC Berkeley, I knew that number one, I needed to be an in-state student, which I was. So I'd get student loans and be able to pay for school. But on the other hand, I needed to be financially independent because at that point, my family, there was a tumultuous past, let's just say that. And as an 18-year-old, I had to pick up some jobs. So initially, I thought, if you have no skills but all hustle, what do you do? Well, all skills, no hustle means you go work some, wage labor jobs, trading time for money, sometimes even a little bit of dignity. So I went out and what did I do? Worked at a gym, cleaning up and setting up some events. Wiping sweat, that kind of thing. Very easy. I also worked for an ice cream shop. But get this, the ice cream shop would be popular on weekends. And there was a security risk. Because imagine a bunch of people who are a little bit high, maybe drunk, rolling up to the ice cream shop and, making big lines, starting fights. It was crazy, like a bar vibe, but in an ice cream shop. So I did security and service there for a year or two, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday evenings until 2 a.m. And the evenings would end with me jumping on trash because, the trash needs to be compacted. But that was a really fun experience. It was a lot of crowd control, like customer service management. And actually, I think I learned a little more about customer service there than I did in, many of my managerial roles. I worked for a gym, served some ice cream, did admin work at a business school, and several other things. But eventually, I hopped over into a sales role, and that was through a company in Estonia. So there was a startup that started this course, actually, this early iteration of a hackathon and accelerator. And it was meant to help people go from concept to creation. And being an 18-year-old, I thought, wow, this is amazing. No one ever told me that I could build my own income. Like, no one ever told me that I could seek my own investment. And no one ever told me that I could do something besides cleaning plates and bar backing and cleaning gyms and such. So let's lean into this. And that's when I got my first break. I hit up the president of the company. His name's Alar. So Alar Kolk sat with me and he was like, hey, man, you're 18. And I told him, that's true, but I'm free. And so if I work for you for free for a year, then would you guarantee me the best package? I told them at the end of the year, if I sell well for you, then I want you to fly me out to France where the next session is, not Estonia. I want you to arrange an internship with me with the biggest travel IT company in the world inside their innovation and research department because his buddy was the head there. I also want you to provide room and board so I can do both the things at the same time. I also want a bigger role next year, train my own sales staff, etc. And right now, I want to take charge of North America sales, but later on, I want to take charge of a team for North America sales. Eventually
let's pause right there, Luke, because this is gold. You're 18 years old, and you're identifying how to provide value when you don't have the credentials that people are looking for. Can you talk about how did you know that at 18?
Actually, I just had to, because during times of desperation and adversity, we tend to be innovative. I believe no tool is created in the comfort of your home. It's created in the arena, in the discomfort of an actual fight. And so the same way that a podcaster might say, oh, if I love creating content, how can I do it for others and monetize? The same way a writer might say, how can I be a ghostwriter for the richest CEOs on earth and help them to do more business, which my friend actually did. There's the same way that someone might take a small nugget and turn it into a business. I thought if I could sell, why not make that bigger?
That's brilliant. I haven't heard of that happening before. It took me about a decade or more to learn that lesson, but please continue. So you're basically front loading your value, and what happened?
Yeah, so the short of it is that over the year, this program is called the European Innovation Academy, turned into one of the biggest study abroads ever to take place at UC Berkeley. So it was sold into the school as actually a study abroad program officially, but also it was sold into other schools in a similar way. So I'd be on phone calls with university professors and department heads and skipping class. So eventually we were able to triple the amount of revenue from North America, triple my quota as well, triple the team size. There was a lot of tripling.
We like threes.
Yeah. So, it sounds good in a story. So yeah, we tripled basically.
Okay. And then how long were you there?
I was affiliated with the European Innovation Academy about 3 years, 1.5 to 2. Yeah, 2 years of those as the head of North America sales.
And I'm guessing your employer was true to his word and helped you get what you were after?
Totally, yeah. So I've had many mentors along the way, just people who were kind to me or saw potential for no reason at all. And he's one of them, Alar Gold.
I think you're a little bit, you kind of estimate that no reason at all. I think the reason is demonstrated, and that is finding the value and having authenticity. And so I think you might have that in spades. So tell me about the Berkeley Blockchain Xcelerator, if you could.
Yeah, totally. So between that period of European Innovation Academy all the way up to Berkeley Blockchain Xcelerator, there was maybe 6, 7, 8 years of time. And during that time, I got more and more into not only the methodologies and the business aspect of startup life, but the communities. So it turned out that all my friends, like maybe 90+% of my friends right now, are actually in startups, doing VC, being solopreneurs, being freelancers. They all eat what they kill, so to speak. So when I hang out with people, I tend to just have jam sessions and whiteboarding sessions as a matter of habit. That kind of told me this is the world where I belong. I feel, number one, curiosity. I can read articles about this for days. Number two, I feel like there's this sense of pride or worthiness. I feel like this world, what we're doing here matters, creating new stuff for humanity so we advance something somewhere. And then, thirdly, I thought there was also a sense of a belonging. Like, these people understand my struggles. They've come from also humble backgrounds, if not adverse backgrounds. And it's known that among entrepreneurs, there's a high incidence of people with learning disabilities or who are multilingual, who are immigrants. So there are people who've struggled. The same way that I think a lot of news reporters and newscasters tend to have stutters with their kids. They overcome their greatest adversity to become the master. And so I just love that kind of rookie story, and I felt belonging, truly. So that's why I ended up doing the Berkeley Blockchain Xcelerator, really as a labor of love, because throughout that time, I became a director at Startup Grind, hosted a bunch of different accelerators. Actually, I was part of the first ever accelerator in VC in cannabis in the US when it was legal. So, I mean, it was accelerator after accelerator, startup volunteerism after startup volunteerism, like community after community, and going to all these hackathons too. So, yeah, that's why I thought, okay, if the Berkeley blockchain department is standing up, and I love this place that trained me, when I was a kid, I used to go there to learn. Then I want to go back and, serve as a department head as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, you touched on a lot of really interesting things I think we could drill down on. I just wanted to highlight what you said earlier about basically some kind of like limitation or adversity, basically being the environment that you plant a seed of innovation in, and it really takes off. I mean, you have to innovate. It sounds like you kind of had to put a lot of things together in your ice cream days, even figure out how to like manage people, how to do your job well. And we shared that actually. My first job was in ice cream. Worked in Baskin Robbins, so maybe there's something to that. But yeah, that's really cool. So what is it about blockchain or cryptocurrency? Maybe let's kind of delineate that too. How would you talk about both of those things? Are they intertwined or are they separate in your mind, blockchain and cryptocurrency?
Yeah, it's a great question. So blockchain and cryptocurrency are intertwined, but in the sense that blockchain technology can exist without there being crypto assets. However, crypto assets rely on blockchain technology to exist. Now, when you look at crypto assets, they could be NFTs, for example, and people think NFT means images. It's not true. NFT just means non-fungible token. It means it's not divisible into decimals. That's all. Just like you can't take a picture and start cutting it up into pieces and selling them. So that's what blockchain and crypto are, generally speaking. However, when you think about Web3 is the term I would use because Web3 encompasses blockchain and crypto and the ecosystems therein. So Web3 is kind of like associating your transactional data and your identity data together, however, anonymizing it. So imagine that, thus far you'd go to a bar and you'd say, I'm over 21 years old, and I'm going to prove that I'm over 21 by giving you my ID. But now the bouncer knows like your address, They know your eye color, they know your hair color, they know everything. You should be able to provide that piecemeal. That's something blockchain helps you do, to anonymize. Also, if you go and you want to exchange currencies or buy something, and the bank transfers take a couple of days, or there's a little snag, especially internationally, well, blockchain is the instantaneous component. And so if you imagine a free and decentralized society where perhaps the powers of monetary systems or government systems are less on the individual consumer, then blockchain could bring about that future. Although I am not a religious believer, I would say blockchain and crypto and other such terms are all under the umbrella of things that can help people if we do it right. That's all. And it's not like blockchain is going to be a revolution started by Satoshi Nakamoto, originated by Bitcoin, where the US dollar will like completely crumble, and we're going to run some kind of anarchistic government. I don't believe that at all.
Well, that's a relief. What you brought up something interesting when you talked about basically, you mentioned the non-fungible token and cryptocurrency and blockchain all falling under the umbrella of Web3. I think in terms of storytelling and sales, in terms of getting a narrative, getting buy-in, developing like partnerships and collaboration, and having that be the foundation for your pursuit. And sometimes NFTs and crypto have fallen, they've got some bad marketing because of some perhaps irresponsible actors, let's say. What is your, how would you kind of talk about that, or what is your sensitivity to that issue?
I see. Look, blockchain is a technology, and so it's going to end up existing in perpetuity. It's just not possible to quash software technology because it poses some kind of political or social change. That said, we'll need to be careful about how we regulate these things, because we've seen the wall of shame or the hall of shame. In crypto, if you type in hall of shame, you'll see some faces. For example, Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX. But it's sad because FTX even sponsored an arena in Berkeley. So, at my old alma mater. But what I'm trying to say is crypto allows you to do things instantaneously, anonymously. That definitely are doable in normal capital markets or in normal business environments. So it's going to take a different kind of ethical and moral stance from people ourselves. The less government's able to clamp down on you or regulate you, the more you got to take personal responsibility not to hurt other people. But also it's going to end up, requiring us to think differently about money and monetary systems, because thus far it's been like Alexander the Great or some such king says, I'm going to stamp my face on this coin. Now it's worth something. The way you add value to the coin is by making it the utility item by which you pay taxes. So Alexander says, you got to pay my taxes in my coin now. That's what makes it valuable. Just like in China, you might pay taxes with rice, and suddenly they're like, no, you got to pay the rice equivalent in coin. So then the coin becomes valuable. So you force people to use it. Now the paradigm has sort of shifted. Is no one's telling us to use Bitcoin because the army is going to come and, tax you. But people choose to use it because they believe somehow. And then in Ethereum, for example, Ethereum supports a network, and Ethereum is something you can build applications on top of. So with Ethereum, you're not being forced by, again, a violent force to pay taxes with Ethereum, but certainly you're forced to pay in Ethereum gas fees, transaction fees, to move crypto and to operate in the ecosystem. So in that sense, they have kind of a win-win utility ecosystem where, individual holders are like incentivized instead of forced, to have Ethereum.
Yeah, thanks for giving us that context and that answer. I think it's part of the process. Like, we'd love to have fertile soil without volcanic eruptions. But it's kind of part of the innovation process, I think, is, being very generous here, but sometimes you err. Sometimes you try things that turn out to be wrong. Sometimes you have someone exploit a loophole that isn't a problem until it gets to a sufficient scale. But that overall kind of increases the intelligence of the system, I think. And so, yeah, I think it's humorous when you mention the Hall of Shame, see where others have erred. Now it's like, what's that book, the Darwin Awards kind of? It's like, oh, okay, maybe don't put 16 weather balloons on your lawn chair for a view. But could you, I know this isn't financial advice or anything, but I'm just curious, since you've been in this space for a while, do you have any kind of, I don't know if favorite is the right word, but like coins that interest you or projects that interest you?
I would zoom out. So think about crypto and then zoom out. Just think about the top 1% and the bottom 1%. Bottom 1% would be what we call shit coins in the industry. And so these are, I mean, I could tell you the names and you should start laughing. There were recent tokens that pumped and did so-called well, right? Like people made money on them. One is called Cock. Another is called Cum Rocket. There's mimetic.
Playing on our primal desires there.
Yeah, I mean, or just our dark nature, kind of like 4chan. 4chan would put out all kinds of weird stuff, and the mimetic value would enable or empower or perhaps compel people, to come out of the internet in droves and even go to Scientology offices, for example, and blockade their doors, right? There's real world consequences to internet memes. And so that's what's happening in crypto. You say, oh, there's Shiba, or there's Cum Rocket, or there's Cock. And people, I mean, that's what people are going to drive their attention towards. It turns out that's the case. And I've been crypto marketing for like 8, and this was 2018. Yeah, so about 6 years, I would say. And so, yeah, like that's just the way it is. Now, you go to the top 1%. Top 1% are the people that are saying, what's the next operating system of crypto? Like, what is the Windows of crypto? What's the Apple of crypto, What's the consolidation process going to bring about? And when you think that way, then there's only a couple that you can really lean on. Ethereum, right? Largest and most popular network. Ethereum is the network that came after Bitcoin, making smart contracts and applications more viable and possible on blockchain technology. Ethereum has a founder, for example, has a face that is known, Vitalik Buterin, instead of Bitcoin, where it's Satoshi Nakamoto, it's a moniker. So that being said, Ethereum is probably a good bet, as seen by the crypto industry. Not my advice, it's just the way it is. Ethereum is also how you pay gas fees on many transactions. So again, there's value there. Bitcoin is the original, right? Like if you're the OG, you have value. So I mean, I would just go left and right, top and bottom 1%. If you want to make quick gains and you want meme value, then maybe go for the shitcoins. And if you want, staying power, then maybe go for things that have a bigger network. Like the Polkadot ecosystem is also very good. I would say Avalanche is also pretty cool. IoTex, very cool. IoTex focuses on IoT. So there's all these blockchain networks that have their own tokens and ecosystems. Yeah.
So are they almost like a currency, like you'd buy the euro or you'd buy the Japanese yen or the US dollar? Is it like that where you're kind of buying into a culture, if you will? If you buy into like Polkadot or something?
Correct. It's like buying a currency and their monetary system leadership at the same time and their democratic society. Yeah, think of it that way. Because if you think about like a DAO, so a DAO is a decentralized or autonomous organization. Oftentimes, crypto ecosystems are governed by DAOs. These are just folks out there who run nodes or who've been voted into power, who enjoy the ecosystem and they help out. But these contributors are effectively the democratic society, like the Senate, let's say, or the Congress, who can make decisions. Then there's the executive body or the founding team or the Genesis team, we call it in the industry. And the Genesis team also is kind of like your executive branch, let's say. Although in a crypto economy, they should have much less power than a government executive would.
Okay, it's a relief.
However, they still have some authority, right? And they can do stuff like burning tokens. If you burn tokens, what that means is you just like destroy tokens, which means, you mess with the value of the token economy. And burning is a very important thing, though, because if you don't do that in the long run, then, of course, you can have runaway prices, for example. So you're buying into the democratic DAO or decentralized contributors, the executive branch / the Genesis team, and then, of course, the money itself, which, according to the SEC and according to lawyers, you shouldn't say the word money around crypto very much. So we're going to say it's a utility token. They have utility. But of course, if they're a security, then, they're also a security.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you about DAO because it seems like there's DAO all over the place. What is the advantage of DAO? Like, how did that come about? Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so let me give you the Star Wars Jedi Knight, religious, like ideological argument. So that is the core, like cypherpunks, like blockchain enthusiasts, blockchain loyalists type people. And they would say our current methods of organizing society have failed us, from governments to corporations. And therefore, we have to rely upon credit cards issued by corporations or money issued by monetary systems of government. And therefore, we're all in trouble because if either party fails as a result of human error or centralized points of vulnerability, then we're all going to be fucked. Okay, I buy it, fine. But I think the alternatives are much scarier because let's say we stop governing ourselves and we have AI govern us, which actually some friends of mine actually they want that. I mean, I'm not sure that's going to be better for me, even if operationally it's a little more efficient. Same with DAOs. The idea is for the first time in the world, we have a situation where you can have pseudo-anarchistic or highly decentralized philosophy and political systems combined with the technology that's able to give you that instant communication, that anonymized voting power, that crypto treasury, which you don't need to have an army to, guard the gold inside the reserve. Yeah, the idea is that, well, for the first time, we're able to say like, oh, screw you, government, screw you, corporation. We're just going to be a DAO and just have decentralized America, right? Now, that's the strong, like, religious argument almost. What I would say is a DAO is simply a way to organize people. It's like, so I'm in a DAO, it's called Raid Guild. And in Raid Guild, it's a bunch of engineers. I'm one of the few non-engineers. We have people who come in and basically pledge, not like a fraternity, but there's a period where they test you and you're assessed, after which you go in through cohorts, and then you can pick up contracts, which are either internal innovation contracts or external contracts. And think of it as a dev shop. So a company comes and says, we want to create a blockchain app. Can you guys do it? Now, here's where it gets interesting is I have to call up or text message people, many of whom I don't know their real face nor real name. It's just avatars. And we would make an agreement, not by handshake or contract, but by smart contract, which means their wallet address, my wallet address, intermediary parties like a legal DAO called Lex DAO, which does arbitration if there's problems. And then the client side too would put crypto assets into an escrow, which then we have voting power to pull out from. And that's all milestone based. So effectively, it's a smart contract based organization where, yeah, you don't sign physical contracts even. You might not even know who your best friends in the organization actually are. I've had the experience of going to conferences and having people unmask in front of me, for example, and say, that tag, that gamer tag, like that's me. It's good to see you, bro. So yeah, it's crazy. Like Web3 is primarily anonymous, and then you might reveal yourself.
Yeah. It sounds like ideally it would be faster and more secure. That's interesting. I've heard like there's a theory, I guess we don't know yet, but with the advances in quantum computing, that there may be some vulnerability to the security of blockchain. Is there any like truth to that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, it's just a yes. I am not educated enough in that field to comment. But actually, one of the first companies I ever got involved with in the Web3 space, and this is something I can't talk about publicly, but yeah, they were doing a lot in quantum, let's say. They were foreseeing this.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because one of the main advantages to blockchain is its security. And if that came under threat, like what we mentioned with like earlier on in this conversation, that's probably going to drive some innovation. I was just curious kind of what that innovation might look like. Do you have any kind of theories on how they might protect against that or adapt to that?
Oh, I see. Man, cybersecurity is something I shouldn't be talking about because there's so many qualified people. Yeah, how about I just refer you cybersecurity experts,
Sure. Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, protecting against it, it's just like text vulnerability. It goes as high as its defensibility is lacking. And so the vulnerability is most often in humans. Even hackers will tell you this. The human component is what they actually hack. So I would be more worried about that, to be honest, not whether blockchain tech and quantum tech will fight head to head and have a victor and loser. I would just worry about who are the people leading in crypto, who are the people with the smart contracts and the wallets and the governance authority, and are these people doing sketchy things, and or are they uneducated about the threats out there?
Yeah, great answer. I feel the same way. With the human element usually being the weakest link or the strongest link sometimes. So could you tell me about Truth Cartel? What is that? You're a partner in this.
Yes. So, man, several years ago, I moved to Miami, and during that time, it was transitionary. I was very vulnerable. I had thought I was going to become a U.S. diplomat, and actually passed through all these exams and interviews with pretty good marks, but at the end, I was dropped for like personality reasons. So, yeah. It was a strange situation where I never in my life, I don't think, had a situation where I hit what I needed to hit, and then I got dropped because of culture fit, essentially.
Did they give you any specifics around that?
No, they can't do that. And now I had some hypotheses and, people who'd done it multiple times told me their feedback. Like in short, apparently I was too much this way. Like I was, not the type to stick around the career path and like follow orders, I guess. But I thought it'd be really nice to be of service and be a diplomat. It was one of my dreams. And so that washed away. Then I had a little bit of time, about 2 years of my life in which I thought, you know what, I've been a tech marketer for a while. And this was during COVID. I've been a tech marketer for a while. And if I stand in front of my maker, then like God himself will be like, hey man, what did you actually do in the world? What needle did you move? So I felt almost ashamed of my career path. Now I don't. I think it's very worthy to do whatever you're doing as long as you're trying to add value and help people. But back then I had this societal guilt, which was misplaced. It's the naive nature of a young man. And so from that point, I applied to actually a few different, let's say, defense branches and military branches and started to edge into the world of intelligence. I thought I want to go and work on North Korea intelligence. I speak Japanese fluently. I speak Korean fluently. I thought, let's go make 60 grand a year and put my life on the line, because if your life is not on the line, then it's not a real job. That's what I thought, like straight up. And I don't share this story often with people. So here you are, we're jamming. But that led to, one thing after another. I ended up launching a decentralized crypto exchange. I ended up helping out one of the best boutique industrial design firms in the world to secure some good contracts. I saw some friends come back and give me opportunities that were completely unexpected. And at the end of that kind of soul-searching journey, I ended up in Miami, and I was this close to going to Tbilisi, Georgia, really just cutting the cord on my life, going to Tbilisi to work on the innovation ecosystem, whatever that meant, right? I thought, hey, I was a director of Startup Grind. I built communities of hundreds. I did 1,000+ conference. Okay, well, how about I amalgamate all of that into just like a new adventure? But I think when you're thrashing or stuck, like as an entrepreneur, so thrashing is like being a fish without oxygen. You're just thrashing on a boat. Or stuck is like being in a dark forest. Like you feel really uncomfortable, but for the life of you, it's really hard to take a knee. So I think when I'm thrashing or stuck, it's no bueno to make big changes and basically travel just to run away from something instead of run towards. So Michael helped me see that, and he's a good friend, a good partner. He invited me to like join up on this agency called Truth Cartel. And since that point, it's been going very well. So we've collected some big names in crypto. We've done some work we're proud of. And to this day, we're advising a few companies that we actually believe in, which is pretty special as marketers. Often marketers are mercenaries with ethics. Like you just basically go to whatever arena you're hired to go to and do whatever it is that needs doing. And if the product sucks or the leadership sucks, you still do the marketing, like hell yeah. So it's nice to have ethics about this and be able to be discerning. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. It's pretty interesting. So one more question regarding your experience. Could you tell me about D-Travel? What is that and what did you do there?
Yeah, so D-Travel is a Web3 company. Think of it as a home sharing network, which you can pay for in crypto. And initially, D-Travel started as a direct competitor to Airbnb. It had investment from big names like Binance. So people knew about it. And when I joined to lead marketing, it was at the very outset. And we were able to execute a sold-out token launch. We were able to execute a go-to-market. We did some clever things like pulling inventory from other sites and other places to fill out the supply side, because the marketplace always has a cold start problem. And we even poached some talent from the travel industry names that you could think of, from the companies that you might think of. Like we took all of them. Yeah, and D-Travel was cool because it was a consumer-oriented effort. It was also an early iteration of DAO society. We looked at hosts of Airbnbs as a decentralized community, which should actually be a decentralized autonomous organization, so that they each have the power to govern and vote about the ecosystem, about even the fees that they're charged, and so that they could, put into a common pool some percentage of money, so that ultimately, if somebody got in trouble or there was a legal problem even, they could help each other to become whole, instead of relying upon a corporation's insurance provider.
Well, it looks like it's still going strong.
It's still alive.
Okay. Yeah, interesting concept. Okay, so I'd like to pivot slightly and talk about what you're doing now. You've raised a bunch of capital in your career so far. I think you mentioned like over $25 million, and now you're helping other people kind of find their product market fit or their service market fit. Could you talk a little bit about this cohort-based course that you've launched on Maven?
Yeah, so let me stop myself from shilling this thing or plugging this thing, because the one thing I hate is when people like me come out on YouTube and say, let me make you money really fast, do affiliate marketing, like do drop shipping, e-commerce, like build an audience, monetize your lead gen. There's a lot of get rich quick people out there, and that's not what I'm about. I actually got rich slow. Like I spent 10 years failing a lot to get to this place where I can live on my own terms, work on my own terms, eat what I kill. And it's been nice because when you have total freedom of time, money, and location, then you can do a lot more with your life and actually show up for loved ones. That's the biggest thing. The biggest value I got is I realized, in the beginning, I thought the purpose of success is to make you stronger so you can do harder things. And so you have a bigger treasury to have better runway. No, the purpose of doing all this and suffering is that I could actually go to an extra birthday or choose to go and be nice to a friend and help him out in a time of need, like, on a moment's notice. So that's what happens when you don't need to worry about the schedule of tomorrow or the price of a ticket, tonight to fly somewhere. Now the course itself is simple. It's the system I've used on a pace of 2 weeks to 2 months every year. Like every 2 weeks to 2 months, I do this. In order to explore new projects, I just stand up new profit lines. And so what I'm saying is not that I'm a genius who, stacks up like a new revenue line every 2 weeks and keeps all of it going sustainably. That's not what I'm saying. Sometimes it hits big. Sometimes I try something and it just fizzles. I'll be honest. But the system itself has worked net. So the simple thing is like there's hackathons, which are usually 1 to 3 days long. There's accelerators, which are usually 1 to 6 months long. Hackathons focus on tech people trying to do tech products in a weekend and pitch investors. Accelerators focus on startups that want to get product market fit. What I'm trying to say is in 7 days remotely with me, you can probably find a way to do something much smaller and much happier. Like take your skills and your expertise, your knowledge, your know-how, and spit it out into a profit line that makes you happy, that works for you. Instead of trying to get investors and promise them 20x returns in the next 5 years. I mean, wow, that's different. Or trying to go for a business bank loan or apply for grants. I mean, in the time you apply for a grant, I can probably help you stand up a website that has a funnel that brings you at least 1 or 2 clients in whatever you do.
Yeah, good point. I mean, and to that point, I spoke to a gentleman yesterday. He was a management consultant for like 7 years and doing well, but has a son and recognizes that he wants to spend more time like with his family, like he said. So he's looking at going the entrepreneurial route. So yeah, I think there's a lot of that going around, and your course is, sounds like a good fit for many people. Could you talk about the concept of 1,000 true fans, that idea?
So 1,000 true fans is a pretty well-known idea that anybody on earth has a 1,000 true fans waiting for them. Now I'll give you the funny explanation because hey, humor's good. Think about foot models like on OnlyFans. Like think about why there could be so many foot models because it's not even a face. I mean, each foot is not that different from the other. But to each of those models, there seems to be like million plus followings, right? Like they're generating revenue. I mean, you look at the numbers and it's staggering. I'm talking people are making enough money to just exit the capitalistic world within months, if not a year, when you and me are doing actual tech services and content services and try to build an agency and all that. So, why is that? Right? It's nothing special.
If only we were a little smarter.
Dude, yeah. So I believe really, truly, I believe the reason is that to every niche or to every simple thing, there's an appeal humanity-wide to at least 1 in a million people. Maybe you cannot find that 1 in a million, and a marketer should certainly never say like, hey, I'm going to go out and find like our, 1 in a million fans out of millions of people on earth. Like that's not an actual strategy, but the fact remains that because of our diversity, there is in fact, like your like 1,000 true fans for even your feet, David. Like you put those pictures up and suddenly you might have traction.
Don't tempt me, Luke. Don't tempt me. I'm liking podcasting.
Yeah. So this is an example I've given a lot of friends, and it strikes home because, like, think about if you have something a little bit more unique or a little bit more value add, like you're a web designer or you're a video producer, or a content writer, then yeah, certainly that has a little more appeal, at least a little more breadth, right? Where you can attract people to take your services. But what if you have interests and you can layer your passions on top of your proficiencies? So, if you enjoy exotic fish, then the fact that you know about exotic fish like really well and you have a home aquarium, but you're also a videographer, can lead to an amazing blog where then you can start selling kits to set up your home aquarium. You can start doing affiliate promotions on products for rare fish. You can become a supplier and a transporter of rare fish who need very specific conditions when they go cross-border. You can become like a science advisor even, and an industry advisor to local zoos and local shops. There's so many ways to pivot out between your passion and proficiency so that you take that idea of 1,000 true fans and you narrow it and narrow it. Now, when you do that, what I believe happens is you get your 100 sticky customers. Meaning the 100 sticky customers concept is what I've adapted, because I realized that most people don't want to be influencers. Like, most people don't want to have 1,000 true fans. Like I don't, right? But I do certainly want 100 sticky customers who buy and buy again, or who buy and refer others, or who are waiting to be upsold because they want to be upsold. These are the people who want to come back to you. And so, yeah, 1,000 true fans is someone else's idea that no matter who you are and what you're selling, including OnlyFans feed pics, you're going to have people who are ready to buy and who are going to be loyal to you as customers. What I'm saying is most people do not want to have fans. They don't want to be influencers. However, get 100 sticky customers. I mean, in a year, right? There's 12 months. So chop it up and it's not that hard. And if you want to sell a higher tier service, for example, I sell PR sometimes. And so those contracts can go between like 15K minimum to way up north of that. Usually about 20K minimum on a contract. And yeah, I mean, there might not be 100 sticky customers who buy that particular package every year, but there's certainly 10 who buy like 10 times that number every year, you know?
Why did you choose the number 7 days for this course?
Oh, I see. So the reason it's 7 days is because hackathons are 3 days and accelerators are 6 months. And I have run like dozens of these things and or mentored at them. So Berkeley Blockchain Xcelerator is an example. Gateway Incubator is an example. City Innovate Foundation is an example. City Innovate, we helped mayors to accelerate cities as if they are startups. European Innovation Academy, that was a 3-week program to host about 700 people at once and help them create companies. Like, my whole life has been in innovation and research departments, running these 0-to-1 go-to-markets and product conceptualization classes and such. So I figured, okay, if I can do this in person, I can do this remote. And I looked around and the offerings were not that good. I mean, I won't talk bad about competitors, but like if you search up courses and people that say they're going to help you to monetize yourself or to productize your skills or whatever, oftentimes it's pre-recorded stuff that you get and you just kind of do yourself. It's basic stuff that's written out in these lead magnets and thought leadership posts, and that's about it. Yeah, I mean that's what it is. And oftentimes you learn from people who've done one special thing. So it's the people who like come out and say, I've had one exit or I've done one thing, or 10 years ago, 5 years ago. That's not good. I believe in learning from someone who's doing it right now. I'm saying like I created a 1-pager with bullet points with my buddy Michael 2 weeks ago and we sold it. No website, like no logo, no website, no branding, nothing. So you can do it. Anybody can do it.
So I see there's a wait list right now. Has this already launched and we're between cohorts, or are you assembling a cohort as we speak?
Yeah, I'm assembling my first cohort as we speak. And the first cohort will be pretty special because it's the seeding of the community. So they're all going to be community members in perpetuity without paying if they wish to be. And the first cohort is also a time when I am humbly saying, I would like to teach. Can you help me to learn what I can do better? So in that sense, I'm going to be offering discounts to people who come from friends of friends, including anybody you bring. And for the community itself, I plan to be running a lot of free value add, meaning every week, if anybody wants to sit with me and have an office hour, then I love these conversations truly. So, I'd be having a coffee with a buddy and discussing business anyway. Like, it's totally possible to do it this way in the remote setting. And also I plan to be running an AMA all the time. So I always thought it'd be cool to have a Slack channel or even a chat room where you can just ask questions and they get basically instant responses. And it's always like it's always a dialectic, a dialogue. So, I'm not promising anything big, but I'm going to try. And these are the things I wish I had back when I led Startup Grind in Berkeley. is my mistake was to build a community of hundreds of people without any online medium of communication, without any subscription, membership, nothing. So the only time they could see each other was to come into a space once a month where we provide drinks and food and education. But I realized that was not the way. If I could do it over, I would make an online community and help people help each other every day and pay forward every day. Yeah.
That's almost more impressive that you built a community that big without it being online.
I know, but dude, I was so stupid. Like this is so funny, but yeah, 21, 22 years old. And looking back, that would have been so good to monetize. I lost money on that one.
Well, that's where the learning is. So in these 7 days, is it like intense, like all day, every day, or like what does it look like? The schedule, I mean.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty easy. Like you drop in on the first day, and I'll walk you through a few mindset exercises. First, we'll think about your founder market fit, because everybody has a specific market or markets where they could serve best based on empathy due to their own lived experience. We'll also talk about your founder problem fit, which means, let's say my buddy who used to be a surgeon in England, he has a startup idea for surgeon tech and to help surgeons to see better on these like robotic surgery screens and to do better with their little devices. Well, he has founder problem fit because he's done surgeries and he's been there before. So again, empathy. I believe empathetic selling is number one. So yeah, we explore your founder market fit, your founder problem fit, and we also think about what draws your curiosity, your pride, and your belonging. So those are feelings that when I have leaned into, I've never gone wrong. And oftentimes people kind of drop one of the three. They're like, yeah, I'm not curious about this company, but screw it, it's great. Or I don't belong here, but I can stay for a year, you know, or like, I'm not proud of this work, but man, I mean, if I die tomorrow, it's going to be okay. Like, you know, I feel good about my life. And mostly these are lies. And so, you know, that's what we explore. And then we also explore what would fit your lifestyle. So some people have kids, some people have other businesses, some people just cannot leave their job because it's a great job. And I don't preach that employee is worse than entrepreneur. Like people sometimes have an ego about this. I don't. In most cases, being an employee of a good company makes you more money, more safety, and more time than being an employee. I mean, it's unbelievable. So if you're thinking about, you know, which way do I lean? I mean, probably the best ROI is to be an employee at a good company. But if you want to also be an entrepreneur or spin out as a full entrepreneur, then there's ways. And that's what we go into day 2, day 3. We discuss the 3 best ideas you can come up with based upon your market fit, your problem fit, and your passions and your proficiencies. And we try to develop a one-pager based on those things to make you into a priced offering. And there's a lot that goes into it, but I would say the most important thing is just your sense of whether you can systematize delivery at a high level so you're comfortable promising things, and also whether you can price things in a way that is sensible to you, because oftentimes people don't cross the chasm of understanding, oh, employee mentality is very different from entrepreneur mentality, and that it's okay and ethical to charge massive margins, and actually adding more value, quicker value, and packaging things, and actually driving your margins much, much higher is preferred by real business people rather than giving them some basic stuff at a cheaper price. Like, you know, when you talk to real, like business to business sales or business to consumer sales, you know, you're looking for quality, and you're looking for confidence. And so, yeah, we go to all of that. And ultimately, within 2 days, you get 3 ideas that are very much cleaned up. I provide templates and workbooks, and I walk you through it. And if you text me anytime, I'll help you do it and write it for you. But then by day 4, you're going to have a one-pager based on what you pick from your 3 favorite ideas. And that one-pager is already something you can send to somebody and sell, which is what I did in the past 2 weeks, just a one-pager. And then in the next 3 days-ish, you come out with just a go-to-market plan. So I put down like 40-some business models and like a bunch of different go-to-market strategies that have worked for me. And this is no theory, by the way, zero theory, just practice. And then the final project is to be like, oh, here's my one-pager. Here's my short list of prospects and champions. Like, here's my go-to-market plan of what I commit to doing in the next 4 weeks. And then if you choose to, you can come to office hours and report back, you know, hey, I got my first clients. But the point is that this process is not like an end-all be-all. Even if your process fails, the system is good. I've used it before. So you can use it again and again and again.
Yeah, sounds really exciting. So I think we should probably wrap there.
Yeah, I got no time constraints, and I almost want to ask you questions, but I know, you know, as the host, like, you prefer to be the one firing?
Not necessarily, but we could do like a part 2 where it's a bit more of a back and forth if you like.
Yeah.
Is there any like kind of big question you'd like to ask me right now?
Yeah, actually. I mean, so this is something that I wanted to ask since before the call. My understanding is that you interact with many, many people who call themselves entrepreneurs, and who rightfully have earned that title, let's say, in the world. What's something that you've seen among all those people that is a commonality? That's something I was curious about. I mean, oftentimes I hear grit, like entrepreneurs have grit. Okay, fine, like that's great. But I wonder what you've seen as a common thread.
That's a really great question. I probably have to take a couple stabs at it. But before I do, there is actually one thing that you brought up between the entrepreneur and the employee that I see that bridge myself. And I see with all the change happening faster and faster now, the entrepreneurial mindset, I believe, is necessary for everyone, whether or not you stay in corporate or whether or not you go out on your own. Because I think we're just going to have to start thinking outside the box, networking more, kind of being ready to pivot. I was in tourism in Japan when the pandemic started. I had to pivot, and so I just see more of that, and it's fun. Like, once you get used to it, that process, and just kind of embracing the chaos, if you will. I see that being more of a vital skill moving forward. So your question, so yeah, it's really hard to just kind of group everyone together. Grit is obviously important. I wouldn't say everyone has it, but that certainly would help when times are tough. I would say, again, there's going to be some exceptions, but a consistency, because I think it's one of those things where you need to, or it helps to have some sort of momentum. So I've read and seen that founders tend to talk their teams down when they're getting really like high on like a sale or some big accomplishment, and they talk them up when they lose or there's some kind of like dejection, because it's, you've got to be ready for the unknown and you have to have that consistency. And so entrepreneurs, I think, are really they develop, whether or not it's maybe it's not something they're necessarily born with, but they develop a shielding that approximates thick skin, because there's going to be disappointment and there's going to be excitement, and you have to be able to take each. The analogy that I try to use myself is like, let's say you and I are talking, like in person, and there's a table in between us, like we're both sat on opposite sides of the table. You place something on the table and I pick it up. So that's like the exchange of information, and I can analyze that dispassionately. I'm not attached to it. I'm not attacked by it. I'm not sold by it. I'm just looking at it. Is this valuable? Does Luke have a point? And I can take that on, even if that's like a disagreement with me and what I've said, or if it's like it seems like there's a parallel there or a compliment. You take it at face value, I suppose, but you're not like taking it on board, similar to your own beliefs. Like you mentioned, you're not like a religious supporter of some of these blockchain initiatives, but with your own beliefs too. If they're not your identity, you can upgrade your thinking with new information, and you can just listen to someone else's viewpoint and grow. This maybe is going a little bit off on a tangent here, but I think it's kind of attaches. Somewhat recently, I found an epiphany that maybe you've already had, maybe others have at different times, but the relationship between interactions. So you mentioned like having authenticity, or when you're selling, being true to your values. We each kind of inform our environment, and our environment is kind of a mirror back to how we're informing it to a large extent, I believe. In my case anyway, it seemed to be a one-way thing where the environment is coming to me. I didn't recognize that I was also going into the environment. There's a symbiosis there. And so I think, again, the ideal entrepreneur is going to be a little bit more self-aware for where they fit in, their strengths and weaknesses, and then know really well what the ROIs are. So yes, you could probably teach yourself anything. You could teach yourself Japanese. You could teach yourself financial analysis. Is that the best ROI? Should you spend 30 minutes every day for a month to learn enough financial analysis to have a conversation with someone who you're going to be collaborating with, who loves it and knows it more than you ever could or would, and that's going to be the best ROI? Or is it just going to be a matter of like networking for like accounting or networking for engineering, and go to your point, to what you did, which really excited me, was finding a way to provide value. If you can be really quick to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are, how you can provide value to others. And what you mentioned about 100 fans, I think there's a lot of truth in that. And I think broadly speaking, everyone has some like port of entry into a value deliverable. So maybe you're not going to be best buds. Maybe you disagree on a lot. But like if you have to work together, or if there's, I think there's always some place, because you're all different, and so there's some place that you can provide value. But often you have to be self-aware enough to get out of your own way. Like, oh, I'm threatened because they believe this, or they whatever. If you just get out and be like, kind of accept the best, like be generous with intention, and just like maybe they're like this for positive reasons. I don't know what they are yet, but let's assume that it makes sense in their mind given the data that they're picking up. And then, I'm kind of generalizing here. There might be all sorts of exceptions, but if you can do that, I think you can really grow. And it could be a little bit scary because, sometimes we want something we don't have, but we want to get it by the data that we understand. And I think sometimes you can have outsized value if you can just trust someone else's data collection. It's scary, no doubt, and it can go wrong, like you said, but net, I think it's a positive. So anyway, I just share a little bit about that.
But I love this. I love where you're coming from, because while you were talking, I actually thought about dating. That there are people I know who are so charismatic and who are so value add as men and women, but they just fail to go on dates. Therefore, their pipeline is small. Therefore, they fail to find their true love. And I don't think it's a problem of their true love does not exist. It's a problem of their pipeline. And so the fact is, just as a person can write some bullet points on a one-pager and hit up the next person on their Rolodex, for example, and say, hey, would this be valuable to you and how much would you pay? Just as you could do that within like 20 minutes, you can go to the next beautiful woman out there or the next beautiful man and just say, hey, would you want to go on a date with me? Like, I don't have dinner plans to you. And oftentimes people think that that's shameless or that's too vulnerable. But I think when the question is asked, there's only an offer, right? Like no one ever committed a crime by offering help to somebody else. And you can be too pushy, sure, but just don't be. Like if you're not rude and you're not creepy, then you can always ask. You have a right to ask somebody, would you pay me for this? Would you go to dinner with me? So I think that approach of just having consistency, but also consistently getting after it, like that really matters. Especially if you can show up and say, but hey, I've been making podcasts. Like, look at all my content, as you can, David. That's a proof point that says, the guy knows how to build. And I believe entrepreneurs, basically, they sell and build. That's the only thing. Like, people complicate what roles there are. Like, in a team, like a heist, right? In a heist movie, there's like different team characters. Like in entrepreneurship, people think you need to have the CTO and the COO and this and that. And no, there's only building and selling. That's all. And if you build consistently and you sell in a way that drives your pipeline, like you should succeed,
I'm sure we do, but I like thinking, if I'm going to lean one way, I prefer to lean into the beliefs that we don't have an upper bound. We just have self-imposed kind of limitation to thinking or risk versus reward or whatever. Because, and this is where the entrepreneurial mindset comes into play. I am generalizing here. There are exceptions, no doubt. But in a, let's say, a corporate structure, there are defined roles outside of my job description. And two things are true I've found. One, it's easier to hide there. Hide from yourself, hide from others, whatever. You just do your role. And you can grow fantastically. And like you say, you can have a tremendously successful and balanced life there. I'm not trying to diss it. But when you go into entrepreneurship, you're in the jungle, like without any weapons, and you're completely vulnerable. So like you figure out real quick, like where your squishy bits are, like what you're good at, and like who you have to like network with in order to like survive and thrive, preferably. But then also, there's no like problem that's not solvable. And so it's like, we need a time machine. Okay, what are the pieces? What are, whatever. I'm exaggerating here, but you have 1,000 hours of work to do in 24 hours. Okay, what do I need to do? I need this person, and you figure it out. Whereas when you're in corporate, it's like, so this goes into something a little bit more kind of 30,000 foot view with my life and my philosophy and stuff. But you can be blinded by belonging. And that's where like the corporate structure and having like being born in a culture and speaking the language and everything that goes with that. You just kind of learn the system and it works, and you learn how to innovate in that system. But then someone else comes and it's like they have new abilities. It's like they're a tesseract or some like multidimensional being that's beyond your 3 dimensions or whatever. Like, how do they do that? Because they don't belong. Like they're not blinded by that belief structure. Like, oh, you have to do this because da da da. And again, I'm not saying that that's wrong. There is a truth to that. But it's like both things are true. And I mean, infinite things are true. And then having the ability to hold all things true at the same time. I don't know that we as individuals can do that, but we collectively can do that to an extent. So that's, I think, I don't know as much about blockchain and crypto as you, but I think that that's something that could lend itself to that, where you can kind of explore, iterate some of these agreements or collaborations in such a way that you can do things that the brick and mortars and the more developed kind of systems might not be able to, like the Titanic trying to deftly maneuver around an iceberg all of a sudden.
Yeah, your philosophy is spot on, at least in my opinion. Because, when you say every problem is solvable, I agree. I mean, I often tell people every system is hackable. And I think that's a statement that tells you more about someone's personality than about their capability. It's just a mindset or an outlook. And I'm glad we share that. I believe that anything is doable and everything is solvable. Even the problem statement of I got 1,000 hours of work, but only 24 hours. In fact, I saw a good friend solve this recently. I'll try to anonymize it a bit since, when my friends don't consent to show up on these podcasts, I got anonymized. But what he did is essentially jerry-rig Trello, which is project management, and then some CRM, I forget which, with Zapier, and then one executive assistant plus one like video editing intern, let's say, as well as a company called Chopity, CHOPITTY, which is very similar to VideoTap and Opus Clip and others, to enable stand-up comedians to make tons of money. So I'm talking most stand-up comedians are like, I don't have time for content creation and posting. I don't have money to pay social media managers. Oh my God. This guy was like, hey, if you send me a G drive with your ideal recent content, long form, then I will run them through AI and just clip a bunch of things. And then my intern over here is going to figure out which jokes were actually funny. And then we're just going to wrap like a promo code around it. So you post it, I post it, we post it. And once your promo code gets triggered, you're going to get like thousands of dollars a week because people actually book shows, not because they love the comedy seller or they love this one theater. They love you, and you're failing to monetize yourself. And he took thousands of hours of comedian work and automated it using like really basic tools. And I think it's beautiful that was solvable.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thanks for sharing that example. Well, Luke, it's been a real pleasure. Let's do this again. And as we wrap, is there anywhere you'd like to point people so they can follow what you're doing?
Yeah, totally. So, I have the Maven.com course, and that is what I'm proud of. I mean, I put a lot of energy into it, and I plan to do right by the students. And I've always had a dream to be a professor. I mean, when I graduated, my mentor and instructor at Berkeley said, what do you want to do in the future? And I told him, like, whenever you quit or get fired, let me know. I'm going for you, One day I want to teach. That's why I'm being an entrepreneur. I want to teach business. So this is me pursuing my dream. On the other hand, I do have social medias like TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. I never wanted to be an influencer, and I'm very resistant to that. However, if you choose to follow them, then I'm going to promise to try to put out content. But, I'm trying not to be that influencer guy who's like, get rich quick, blah, blah, blah. Just try to be authentic.
Okay. Yeah, we can put those links in the show notes. And once again, thanks for sharing a bit about your journey with us. It seems really exciting, and I'm sure it's just getting started.
Yeah. Thank you so much, David.